48 hours. That's how long it took for the Trump administration's entire narrative about Iran to collapse as Republican officials found themselves contradicting their own statements from 24 hours earlier. Senator Markwayne Mullin went on television Monday insisting this isn't a war. Tuesday morning, he walked out of a Senate briefing and told reporters this is war. When they pointed out the contradiction, he claimed he misspoke while continuing to use war terminology. Secretary of State Marco Rubio gave a detailed Monday press conference explicitly stating the United States struck because Israel was about to attack Iran and America needed to strike first to prevent Iranian retaliation against U.S. forces. Tuesday, when confronted with video of his own words, Rubio called that false and claimed reporters misunderstood him. The administration has given 4 completely different justifications: Iran's nuclear program, regime change, imminent threat, and 40 years of terrorism, often contradicting these within the same press conference. And through it all, Benjamin Netanyahu appeared on Fox News and laughed when asked if he dragged Trump into war, then called Trump the strongest leader in the world. What happened over 48 hours wasn't poor messaging. It was complete breakdown of a narrative nobody had coordinated, exposing how the decision to strike Iran was actually made and whether evacuation plans even existed before military action began. The timeline of contradictions started immediately, but to understand how spectacularly this fell apart, you need to see exactly what these officials said when they said it and how quickly they tried to walk it back. Monday afternoon. Strikes begin. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth: "We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it." Monday evening, Senator Markwayne Mullen on television. Host asks, "Is this not a war of choice?" Mullen, emphatic, "This isn't a war. We haven't declared war." The host plays Hegseth's clip, "We set the terms of this war from start to finish." Mullen doesn't back down. He insists this is definitively not a war because Congress hasn't declared one. That becomes his entire argument, regardless of what the Secretary of Defense says. This is absolutely not a war. Tuesday morning, 10 a.m., Mullen walks out of a Senate briefing. Reporters surround him. Are there measures being taken not to eliminate other possible alternatives to leadership? Mullen's response on camera: "This is war, and we're taking out the threat. If you're part of the threat, then you're a target. We're not going after all the arrows, we're going after the archers." The reporters jump on it immediately. "You'll concede this is war." Mullen realizes what he said, starts backtracking. "We haven't declared war. They declared war on us, but we haven't declared war." Another reporter: "But Senator, you just said this is war." Mullen flustered: "What I was saying, okay, well that was a misspoke. What I was saying is that they've declared war on us. But war is ugly. It always has been ugly." The reporter won't let it go. "But you're not conceding this is war." Mullen's response becomes incoherent. "We haven't declared war. If we haven't declared war, then I don't see that the president has asked us to declare war yet, but they have declared war on us. We're just simply fighting the threat. In less than 1 minute, this is war. That was a misspoke. We haven't declared war. But war is ugly. I'm not conceding this is war. We're fighting the threat." Less than 24 hours from this definitively isn't a war to complete contradiction of himself, but Mullen wasn't finished. That same Tuesday morning on Fox News, he delivered a statement that went viral immediately. "War is ugly," Mullen said, his voice somber and reflective. "It smells bad. And if anybody's ever been there and been able to smell the war that's happened around you, and taste it and feel it in your nostrils and hear it, it's something you'll never forget." The problem: Markwayne Mullen has never served in the military, never been deployed, never worn a uniform, never been near an active battlefield. He's describing the sensory experience of war, the smell, the taste, as if he has personal knowledge, as if he's a combat veteran, as if he's earned the right to describe what war smells like. Social media erupted. Veterans called it out. Mullen, who spent Monday insisting this wasn't a war, spent Tuesday describing what war smells like despite never experiencing it, while claiming he misspoke when he called it a war. And during that same Fox appearance, he accidentally called Pete Hegseth President Hegseth before correcting himself. One senator, 3 catastrophic incidents in 18 hours, contradicted himself about whether it's war, described combat he's never experienced, called the Secretary of Defense president. But Mullen's chaos was nothing compared to Marco Rubio's disaster. Monday afternoon, hours after strikes began, Rubio held a press conference. Reporters asked, "Why now? What triggered this?" Rubio's answer was detailed and explicit. The second question that's been asked is why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond, and respond against the United States. He continued clearly, we knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that would precipitate an attack against American forces, and we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties, and perhaps even higher killed. Read that again. Rubio explicitly stated, Israel was going to strike Iran, that would trigger Iran to attack American forces. America struck first to prevent casualties. The causation was crystal clear. Israel plans strike Iran, retaliates against America, America strikes first. Whether you call it dragged into war or not, Rubio described American action as a response to Israel's planned decision. That press conference was Monday at 2 p.m. By Tuesday morning, Democrats seized on it, arguing Israel had dictated American military decisions. Tuesday afternoon, Rubio emerged from congressional briefings. Reporters surrounded him. Mr. Secretary, yesterday you told us that Israel was going to strike Iran, and that's why we needed to get involved. Rubio cut him off sharply. Your statement is false. The reporter tried again, but yesterday you told us, Rubio interrupted, voice rising with frustration. I was asked very specifically, did we go in because of Israel? And I said no. I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program. His delivery was breaking down. The president systematically made a decision to systematically destroy this terroristic capability. Notice the repetition, systematically made a decision to systematically destroy. He was losing composure. I was very clear in that answer, Rubio insisted. This was a question of timing, of why this had to happen as a joint operation, not the question of intent. But he wasn't clear, and his Tuesday explanation directly contradicted Monday. Monday, Israel's planned action necessitated American strikes to prevent Iranian retaliation. Tuesday, that characterization is false, and the decision was independent of Israel. Both cannot be true. Either Israel's planned strike determined timing, or it didn't. Rubio said it did Monday in explicit terms. He said it didn't Tuesday, and called reporters' characterization false. The contradictions weren't just individual officials. The entire administration kept changing fundamental explanations. First, Iran's nuclear program must be stopped. Then the Iranian people deserve freedom, regime change. Then imminent threat requiring immediate action. Then the imminent threat was 40 years of terrorism. Then no regime change, just military capabilities. Then actually yes, regime change. Trump has a list of moderates. Then we killed the moderates, so no one to replace the regime. Then it's only about missiles and nuclear program. Then it's about creating a free Iran. Trump himself cycled through positions, doesn't want regime change. Regime should change, has a list of replacement. Those people are dead. CNN compiled a montage of Republicans giving completely opposite characterizations. That often happens in war. I don't know if this is technically a war. We didn't start this war, but we are finishing it. This isn't a war. We haven't declared war. We set the terms of this war from start to finish. Nobody should classify this as war. It is combat operations. War is ugly and always will be. Strategic strikes are not war. 7 officials. 7 different characterizations of the same military action at the same time. New information kept emerging contradicting claims about preparation. During his Monday press conference, Rubio revealed evacuation chaos. We have about 1,500 Americans requesting assistance with departure. The challenge we're facing is airspace closures. We can have planes lined up to go, but we can't get them to land because we don't have permission. Military strikes began without secured evacuation routes. Americans scattered across the region, diplomatic facilities under attack, and the administration still coordinating how to get people out. A reporter asked directly, was there a plan in place to evacuate Americans before the attack? Rubio's answer was telling, that is the plan we are trying to carry out. But the challenge we are facing is airspace closures. That's not yes we had a plan, that's we're trying to execute one now. If the plan existed before strikes, airspace closures would have been anticipated. Rubio revealed the Dubai consulate was struck by a drone. We began drawing down personnel from our diplomatic facilities in advance. Beirut and Baghdad we drew down to bare bones. So facilities drawn to bare bones, Dubai attacked, airspace closures preventing flights, and the administration asking Americans to register after strikes began. This contradicts claims of careful planning. If meticulously planned, evacuation routes would be secured, facilities fully evacuated. Americans registered before military action, which brings us back to Rubio's Monday explanation. Israel was going to strike, America went first to prevent retaliation. If true, it explains everything: incomplete evacuation planning, rushed timeline, unpreparedness, lack of coordinated messaging, no agreement on objectives. But Rubio denied it Tuesday. Either he lied Monday or Tuesday. Either way, Americans get contradictory information about why their country is at war. And through this chaos, Netanyahu appeared on Fox News with the perfect response. Host: there are people that say the Prime Minister of Israel dragged Donald Trump into it. Netanyahu paused, then laughed. Not a polite chuckle, a full audible laugh lasting several seconds. Well, you're right, I mean, that's ridiculous. Donald Trump is the strongest leader in the world. The optics were devastating. As American officials scrambled to deny Israeli influence, Netanyahu laughed and praised Trump, knowing flattery would ensure Trump wouldn't contradict him. Masterclass manipulation on international television: deny influence by praising the person you're accused of influencing. Make it about his strength, so he won't admit anyone affected his decisions. It worked. Trump never contradicted Netanyahu's framing. Instead, Trump kept changing his own explanations, making it impossible to identify a consistent position. Meanwhile, the most surreal moment came from Senator Thom Tillis, grilling Kristi Noem about killing her 14-month-old dog. You decided to kill that dog because you had not invested the appropriate time in training, Tillis said, his voice carrying anger. And then you have the audacity to say it's a leadership lesson about tough choices. At that same lunch hour, you killed a goat. My point is, those are bad decisions made in the heat of the moment. Then Tillis connected it: not unlike what happened in Minneapolis. We expect exceptional leadership, and you've demonstrated anything but that. The parallel was unmistakable: bad decisions made without proper preparation, claiming failures are strength and decisive leadership, rushing into action without investing time, then defending it all as tough choices. Sound familiar? Exactly what the administration did with Iran. Rushed into military action without preparation, without coordinated messaging, without evacuation plans, without agreeing on objectives. Then claimed it was strong, decisive leadership as officials contradicted each other hourly. Reports emerged that Republican senators were furious, privately. Senator Todd Young of Indiana reportedly went off during a closed-door Republican lunch about the White House's handling of Iran. Multiple Republicans privately expressed intense frustration with contradictory messaging, lack of coordination, obvious unpreparedness. But publicly, they continue supporting the strikes. For 48 hours, the world watched American officials claim this wasn't war, call it war, claim they misspoke, use war terminology while denying it's war, say strikes were necessary because of nuclear program, then regime change, then imminent threat, then 40 years of terrorism. Explain Israel's planned action necessitated American strikes, then call that explanation false. Praise careful planning while scrambling to coordinate evacuations after strikes began. Describe what war smells like despite never serving. Call the Secretary of Defense president. And through it all, Netanyahu laughed on Fox News while praising Trump, knowing flattery would prevent clarification of actual decision-making. This isn't bad messaging. This is evidence the decision happened so quickly, with so little coordination, that officials haven't agreed on what story to tell. They're making up justifications as they go, contradicting themselves, because there was no unified strategy for explaining why this happened when it did. Marco Rubio gave the real explanation Monday. Israel was going to strike. America went first to prevent retaliation. That explains rushed timeline, incomplete planning, lack of messaging, no clear objectives. But that explanation is politically devastating, because it means Israel's decisions determined American military action. So Rubio tried walking it back Tuesday, but you can't unring that bell. The explanation was given on camera, in a formal press conference. It's on record, reporters have video. The administration can't admit Rubio was right Monday, because that confirms Israel dragged America into war. Can't admit Rubio was right Tuesday, because that means he lied Monday. So they keep contradicting themselves, hoping the chaos is too confusing to follow. But people are following. Even Americans who don't follow foreign policy can see officials contradicting. That's not partisan observation, that's documented reality with timestamps. 48 hours, that's all it took for the entire narrative to collapse. For senators to argue with their own statements. For the Secretary of State to call his Monday explanation false on Tuesday. For officials to cycle through 6 justifications. For a senator who never served to describe war smell. For Netanyahu to laugh while American officials scrambled, and for Americans to watch their government stumble through opening days of a war. Nobody can agree on calling a war, justified by changing reasons, explained by officials contradicting themselves hourly, launched without completed evacuation plans. Subscribe, this story isn't over. As operations continue, as casualties mount, pressure for consistent explanations will increase. Share this everywhere because American officials are telling contradictory stories about why the country is at war, and the timeline of their contradictions is documented on video. Thanks for watching.